so honored to have a hero of ours, Dr. Temple Grandin, here with us today. She wanted to say a few words. She's been talking all day and signing all day, so we're going to keep this brief, because you've got to be exhausted.
Well, I got the coughing fit in the middle of my
Oh.
videos. I'll edit out.
That was part of the charm.
Yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
think it's great what you're doing, and the reason you're good at what you do is you get attention to detail. And the problem with the normal brain is it overgeneralizes. I'm constantly fighting overgeneralization. People ask me, well, what do I do about someone with autism? How do I deal with a dog behavior problem? Whatever it is, they will tend to overgeneralize. And I find I'm troubleshooting lots of different things. You've got to have a lot more information. You say the autistic mind sees the details. The regular mind, too much top-down, too much overgeneralization. And one of the things I talked about in my talk this morning is what would happen to Einstein today. He had no speech until age 3. He'd probably be autistic. How about Thomas Edison? He was described as an adult, hyperactive high school dropout. He was probably in the autism spectrum. Steve Jobs was kind of weird. He was a weird loner who brought snakes to school and got bullied in high school in a really bad way. You know, there's a lot of people that are different that have done a lot of really great things. And you're showing them out there with Bose and the other companies you're working with. You can do it better than anybody else can. That's the thing to do. Because the thing I learned in the work I did in the cattle industry, I learned to sell my work. Make myself the best of the best in the industry. I also had to deal with discrimination against being a woman in a man's industry. But I learned to sell my work. I never talked about autism. I would just put the portfolio out there. My drawings, my pictures, references, show off the work. You improve yourself by doing the best work. I just understand that for one client you were better than a Fortune 500 company. Well, that's just great. That's what you need to do. Prove that you can be the best. Maybe there'll be some questions.
I have a question. I have
Okay.
a request. Can you repeat just briefly your message about doing things from a young age?
We need to get kids from a young age out doing things. You're working on screens now, but I'm seeing too many young kids getting addicted to video games. And I've got a book called Calling All Minds, where we get kids out making things. And a lot of those are my childhood projects, airplane kites and things like this. And going back and duplicating those as an adult was not that easy because I couldn't get exactly the same materials. And the thing is, when I was a kid with a lot of little things I made, especially my aviation experiments, I had to tinker and tinker and tinker to get them to work. And a lot of kids today are afraid to make mistakes. See, the thing about making actual practical stuff is you're going to make mistakes. Then you figure out how to correct the mistakes and have the perseverance to correct them. So that's why I did the Calling All Minds book.
I just wanted to ask, really my first introduction to you was the movie, the HBO
Yeah.
movie, and I just wanted to ask, what was your experience like with that?
Well, it was really kind of weird. Seeing the movie was like the 60, 70 time machine. They showed my visual thinking accurately. They showed all my projects I did accurately. Yeah, there's some stuff they had to change around, but the important stuff, the main characters, visual thinking, and the things I designed are accurate. My actual drawings are in the movie. And I really like that because I am what I do. I get satisfaction in life by being good at what I do. Now, this stage of my career, I'm 70, almost 71 now, is get satisfaction out of helping other people to be the best at what they do. Let's get some other questions here, right there.
Yeah, so I was at your talk earlier, and I know you talked about that work experience is important, which I agree because that the educational system and the work world are not. I don't think they mesh well. They're different. They hold themselves
Academic
different.
skills are kind of a different set of skills than work skills.
Yeah. So, but I know. So you were. My thing is, you were talking about like getting work even from like starting at like 11 years old. My experience growing up, I was born in 1990, is that the work world has changed from when you were like those ages. That it's very harder. It's all
We
like
have
the
to
smaller
figure out, well, you have to
non-contracts
figure out how to do it now. I would suggest now, today, for jobs that 11, 12-year-olds, okay, what do we do to replace the paper route? I know that's gone. Dog walking for the next door neighbors. Set it up in the neighborhood. I think it's very important to learn to do tasks on a schedule outside the home. Volunteer jobs at church, synagogue, community center, farmer's market, a whole lot of volunteer jobs. But learning how to do that task on a schedule. You gotta walk Mr. Jones' dog every day at 6 o'clock, rain or shine. It's a job. And a quality 20-minute walk. Don't skimp on the length of time of the walk. You see, that is doing the job. And with littler kids with chores, there's a tendency lots of times when a kid gets a label to have the parents do too much for them. I'm seeing too many kids today that don't know how to do life skills, like shopping. That's stuff I was doing when I was very, very young.
Yeah, and I definitely think there definitely is a lot that stuff doesn't happen as much.
We have to make it happen.
As it used to, and it does.
You
Yeah,
just have to make it. We have to
focus on it.
we don't have paper routes anymore, let's find something to substitute for paper route.
Yeah.
And the reason I like dog walking is it's not seasonal. Things like shoveling snow and mowing lawns is seasonal. Where dog walking, you've got to do it year round, just like a paper route.
And I think you're oversimplifying about video games. I mean, one thing you say that it teaches you that you have to fail in order to succeed eventually, and that's something they teach you because a lot of them are very hard. And also, I've come up with ideas while playing them. Some of those ideas were wrong, but I still think about things like that. I don't immediately give up because of an occasional failure. And
Well, the thing about the video game thing is, in moderation, it's fine. But you've got some kids playing video games for 10 hours a day, and they're not doing anything else. It's like a lot of things. Moderation is fine, but what I'm kind of seeing with a lot of kids that get an autism label is the ones that learn how to work are going out and doing really well, and then you get others who are ending up in the basement playing video games on a Social Security check. That's not where I want them to go. If you can play them in moderation, fine. But there's some people that have a very difficult time playing them in moderation, and they're not having good outcomes. Okay, right there.
On a personal level, are there any stories you can share that have motivated you in life?
Well, I had a very good science teacher. I was not a good student in school, and my science teacher gave me projects that got me really interested in science. You saw the optical illusion room in the HBO movie, and that's in Calling All Minds. I actually had to figure out how to make that optical illusion room work. My mother, when I was young, was always pushing me to do new things, always stretching me, giving me some choices, but stretching me. When I was 15, I was afraid to go out to my aunt's ranch. That's where I got introduced to the cattle industry. And she gave me a choice, 1 week or all summer. Not going was one of the choices. Because if you don't stretch, you don't develop. Now, on the other hand, jobs with tons of hectic multitasking, like a McDonald's lunch rush, that'd be a bad choice. You can't load the working memory. We have a whole lot of hectic multitasking. The other things I found when I was doing projects is I wanted to get very clear what exactly the client wanted. Or if there's a job that involves sequence, step 1, step 2, step 3, give me kind of a pilot's checklist so I don't have to remember the sequence.
You mentioned earlier about how kids have to go out and do stuff, and you specify more physical, tangible things. But I think programming is a pretty good fit for that as well. Well,
no, programming is, you see, but the kids that are getting addicted to video games aren't learning programming. If they were learning programming, they were actually learning how to make video games and go into the video industry, I wouldn't be criticizing it. But they're not learning any programming. No, I think it's fine to learn programming, because people will pay you to do programming. That's fine. And what I've noticed on the video game thing The old video games, the people that played Pong and those ancient old Space Invaders and the old games, those people would go on into programming because those old games, the computer showed its guts off. Because they'd break and then they'd see all the code. But that's not happening now with the modern video games. The computers do not show their guts anymore. And these kids are not going into programming. That's the reason why I'm so critical of it. Because the outcomes are bad.
I understand what you mean, but I was going to go into more detail about, I think in the past couple of years especially, people have been starting to teach coding to kids.
Yeah, I think
Like,
it's probably a good
there's
idea.
There's a building right nearby, like within walking
Yeah.
distance, that does coding classes for kids.
Well, the other thing is, let's bring the coding back to the real world. I went to an SIS conference, and they had that Spiro ball. I actually did a little programming with that. I did pretty good, except I left out the last step. But the thing I liked about the Spiro for kids is that the coding is making an actual physical thing do something. That's getting it back to the real world. You know, you do the coding. I'm talking about little kids here. The other thing you got to learn in coding is you got to write code on assignment. You got to write code that for Bose or for whoever your client is. You've got to learn how to do tasks on assignment that other people want. Okay, a company like Google, I think, allows 15% of the time do whatever you want, but the rest of the time, you got to do the work they assign. You see, and that's a work skill. Now, I talked about the different kinds of minds, like the visual thinkers like me, photorealistic visual thinkers. We're going to be on the mechanical. I'm going to be on the mechanical side of things. And then the more mathematically inclined people are going to do the coding. And as I mentioned this morning about the iPhone, Steve Jobs was an artist. He made an interface that was easy to use. The more mathematically inclined engineers and coders had to make that phone actually work. That's the two kinds of minds working together on things. So the kids that turned out to be little math geniuses, let's introduce them to coding. But right from the start, they got to start learning how to do coding that does something on assignment. And the thing that bothers me is that some of these kids that are in the basement playing video games, well, they should be working here, or maybe they ought to be working for Amazon or Google or Apple. And they're in the basement playing video games instead of going where they should have been going. Because I've been out to these tech companies. You know what? This looks like Silicon Valley. You're the same people here. It's the same people. I've been to Silicon Valley. The only difference between here and it's the same exact people. You go out there, they just don't have a diagnosis. They're the same nerds. They got the same decorations in the office, like TARDIS and stuff like that. That's like, you know, Stormtrooper, whatever, things you've seen here.
I have a cousin that works in Silicon Valley. So
It's the same people. I've been there. I've been to the tech companies. I've seen them.
actually, I guess my cousin is
Well, you almost have to be on the spectrum to be a good programmer. But you need both kinds of minds. That's why the iPhone is such a great product. Because the two kinds of minds work together. They may not have realized it, but the two kinds of minds work together on that. And that's why that phone's simple to use.
Actually, my friend wants to ask you a question.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering, you know, like, yeah, some of these, a lot of people, like, these people you're talking about, maybe like bioinformatics stuff, coding for like, yeah, biotechnology companies and stuff, like, or organizations, you know, maybe, like, yeah, is there a way to get more people, like, on the autism spectrum writing codes, developing, like, bioinformatics software?
Well, first of all, with any profession, students get interested in stuff they get exposed to. Now, the thing I'm finding in terms of advising students, what industry really likes is mixtures of majors. Computer science mixed up with engineering, maybe with some biology, they like these mixtures. You know, like SpaceX, for example, they like computer science, electrical engineering, a dash of mechanical, and some physics, all mixed together in a bachelor's. Love ya, hire you instantly, work your butt off.
That's basically what I got on my master's.
Okay, but they like these mixtures where you can go across disciplines. I'm concerned about majors that are too narrow. That's not what's going to be good in the workplace today.
Yeah, my graduate coursework combines like biochemistry, microbiology, statistics, information technology, computer science, and a little bit of business management.
Well, that's a good mix.
Dr. Grandin, let's take two
Okay,
more.
all right.
I think we had Paul and Lauren, now we have two.
All right, here, let's take these. We can take 4 more. Okay, I'm
Okay,
fine.
good.
Right there.
Me?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, I think one of the things I think about, because I feel like, you know, I'm actually new to the diagnosis, so I feel like I have a...
You just look like regular Silicon Valley geek.
I do or don't?
That's also a diagnosis.
No, I'm wondering because it's something, it's something I'm new to, but it's something that I kind of knew is, like, it explained a lot of things, like, oh, okay, but I have largely experienced a neurotypical life, as I've come to call it, and you know, it's one of those things that I see. It's like, you know,
Well, you see, that autism is a true continuum.
Well, no, right. I'm just.
Basically, let me explain to you what happens in the brain in autism. This is brand new research. The same genetics that makes human beings have a gigantic, huge cortex is the same genetics that causes schizophrenia and autism, also epilepsy. And basically what happens is in autism, you grow extra circuits in the back of the brain, maybe in the math department, music department, the art department, and you shortchange the social stuff. You also shortchange some of the multitasking stuff. In schizophrenia, what happens is you don't grow quite enough, you don't grow a dense enough network. And then in late adolescence, when the system does synaptic pruning and trim back the bushes, trims back too much and the network starts to fail.
Okay.
And so one is too much neuronal growth early, and the other one's not enough neuronal growth.
No, I was going to find my own way to segue into it, but I wanted to get onto the social aspect. But I think
Okay.
that information is actually was something I wasn't aware of and is kind of interesting. So, you know, it's all like this tech stuff that, you know, people on the spectrum tend to get, for lack of a better word, shoehorned into. But you know, I'm thinking, you know, as far as like real tangible career paths, like what would you say about like, you know, more socially oriented jobs and stuff like that?
Depends
It's
upon
just
the
always
person.
something I'm
There's a lot of
thinking
people
about.
on the spectrum that are very good at retail sales, extremely knowledgeable on specialized subjects such as cars. I've heard about 3 cases where teenagers that couldn't drive were going into car dealerships and just start selling cars because they had a tremendous knowledge of cars. And a social interaction you do for sales is kind of a simple social interaction. You see, autism, it's a true spectrum. One that's a little bit nerdy become autism. It's an absolute true spectrum. And the other problem that you got is at one end of the spectrum you've got Einstein, at the other end of the spectrum you have somebody with epilepsy that can't dress themselves. And they've all got the same name. And then the top-down verbal thinkers overgeneralize. And I'm seeing stuff I don't want to see, like a smart kid that ought to be learning computer programming in with people that can't dress themselves.
Yeah.
You see, that's totally
Paul
bad.
has tried to ask a
Okay,
question.
let's get this.
I've actually been meaning to ask you. Forgive me if I'm ignorant of your work on this, but has it been difficult to inform people that there's no link between autism and vaccines?
I don't even discuss that. Let's discuss it.
Okay.
Forget it, we'll go on, next question. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Okay, my question is, yes, I work here at Aspiritech, but if I were to go on to another job, do you think that would stigmatize me because?
You know what the best thing to do? Sell your work. Just sell your work. Put your portfolio out. This is what I did.
Yeah, but what if they know that I have autism already? Well, do you think that their opinion might change of me?
Unfortunately, sometimes that's the case. That's why the emphasis has to be on showing off the portfolio of work. Show off the work. This is what I can do. And here's my portfolio. And when I did interviews to get cattle jobs, I would just lay the drawings out on the table, put the pictures out there, my brochure out there. All right, now it's coding. You can say, here's some code I wrote for this, and it does this. And you'd have it on an iPad, make sure it's charged. And it doesn't have really weird Area 51 stickers all over it. Have a little professionalism. All right, this is what I can do. I know this programming, C++, Python, whatever. This is what kind of work I know how to do. Just lay the work out.
All right.
Sell the work. That is something I learned.
All right.
And you need to, what you want to do when you show off your portfolio is a 30-second wow. Where you can put something out there and they look at maybe this much code on the screen and go, oh, wow, that's nice. It's the kind of stuff you want.
No one you wanted to ask something?
Okay, and there was a question here.
No one wanted.
Okay,
Lauren.
okay.
All right, I just, something that's always bothered me has been that where the overgeneralization kind of goes in the other direction, where people think, oh, because you're very smart, because you have these skills, that you must be good at everything, that you don't need help with things. And one of the hardest things for me has been convincing people as they get more and more impressed with whatever I'm impressing them with. I don't really know, but they'll think that that means that the problems that they've seen no longer exist. And how can people make sure that they get the accommodations they need?
First of all, I need to talk specifically about accommodations. You see, you're asking a question that's almost too vague. And you know, let's look at some of the common problems. I mean, a lot of kids today, I mean, they aren't learning, you know, budgeting skills, for example. That was something that was taught to me at a very, very young age. That was something that was done in the 50s with all children. So tell me something specific where you have a problem.
Time management.
Time management. Okay, now let's discuss time management. One of the things I did when I was in college, since I was a visual thinker, is I had big calendars and I put them on the wall, and I'd mark down when the term papers were due, so I could plan out studying. I never pulled an all-nighter before test. I never did that. So when you say time management, where do you have a time management problem? Let's break this down and see where you have a problem. Where's the problem?
The problem is that up until a point, I can manage time, but when it comes to, okay, I'm getting too specific now because I'm
trying to figure out where your time management problem is. Is it getting to work in the morning?
Yeah.
Is it
no.
getting your work done?
Deciding what to do at any given time. Organizing the thoughts, because there's so many different things that need to happen.
Okay, so the problem is making a priority for the different work. I was talking to another guy in another tech company, and I discussed you need to have 4 categories of priority, from, you know, not important at all to super important. And some things are more important than other things. Now, for me to help you with that, I'd have to start learning more specifically about what you actually do.
I kind of...
You see, then I could help you make a priority for your work.
She's the lead.
What?
I'm a lead.
I don't know what neat is.
I'm a lead.
Lead.
She's a manager. Lead a project.
Yeah.
Team.
I manage a team of like 8 people now because I'm good at my job.
You're managing some people, so you have problems on what projects to put them on in terms of what priority?
The more people I'm managing, the more jobs I have to do, and the more jobs I have to make sure they know how to do.
I'll tell you what building contractors do. I'll also tell you what they do on the movie site. They put great big charts up on the wall, and they still do that. Now maybe they might put them in the computer too, but they put big charts up where they can see like a 4-month period. They did this for the movie about what they were gonna do on different days and charted it all out. And it was done on the wall in paper.
Marika does that.
You might, find that would help you. I went to Pixar about 3 years ago, and they were still storyboarding on the wall in the hallway in paper. Big long strips of stuff. And it might help you to lay it out visually. So you can kind of, okay, what do we have to get done? Okay, we got how many clients are in there?
Just the one.
Just the one. Okay. All right, now you got the one client, and then they've got various projects. And there's probably some deadlines for these different projects. Then you mark those on those calendars. I'd put them, monthly. I like a calendar where I can see the whole month. I have a calendar that I keep by hand because I want to see the entire month. I hate a calendar where it's sequential days. I hate those. I want to see the entire month. And if I was in your job, I would just stick these calendars up on the wall. And I would mark in there when different stuff had to get done. And chart it out. Building contractors actually do that. They might do it on the computer, but it's the same thing.
Computers, you look at the calendar and it's like, there's no view that looks good.
What you have to start figuring out is priority. You've got stuff with hard deadlines,
And
where they're going to be really mad if this piece of work's not done by this date, and you mark that in red.
Yeah, I wish most of it was deadlines. Most of it is like random things, like things I want to do to improve the work, things I want to do to make, to streamline things.
But this is the sort of thing that, I'd have to sit down and,
Yeah.
I know a lot about industry, so sit down and sort of figure out what things might be higher priority and start marking them out. The other thing is, I learned, okay, if I have a block of time on a weekend, that's when I want to get a book chapter roughed out. Because if I dink around doing a lot of little dinky stuff, I won't ever get that book chapter roughed out. There's certain things where you need a large block of time, undisturbed, to do it. And then there's other things like answering correspondence and stuff like that, that you can do that, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. So I start thinking about what are the big things where you kind of improve something from the little things. But you see, I'm a visual thinker, so I want to see it on a calendar. Okay, how about right there?
Ruby,
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
how hard was it to actually sell your work?
Actually, I found selling the work was much easier than getting people to operate the systems correctly. What I've learned is people want the thing, the magical new thing that's going to solve all their problems. They want that more than the management, which is a whole lot of attention to detail on how to sell things. I was just in the car, and we were discussing problems in the meat industry. People don't maintain equipment. You see, that's the management side of things. People want the thing. Okay, we're going to put in this magic computer system that's going to fix all your problems. Well, it's not going to fix all the management problems this company might have. And basically, I sold jobs in my portfolio. Another thing I did is I wrote articles. There's a scene in the movie where I went up and I got the editor's card. And I started writing about my projects. And I've suggested on Aspiritech, you're doing a lot of good things here. Write about it. Blogs. Write in computer industry magazines. In your different trade magazines, whatever they are. Write up in some professional journals.
Because my sister has a talent for designing ships, and she wants to make them hybrid. So she's trying, I want to know so I can help her figure out how to sell her work to...
Design ships to sail, sailing like cargo vessels, or?
Big ships like that, yes. She wants to design the big ships.
Design big ships.
Like the cruise ships.
Maybe she needs to get a job for a shipbuilding company.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the first thing, you got to get in the door. And then a lot of companies, once you get in the door, you can migrate all around in the companies. There's people in the movie industry that literally started out in the mailroom. Not kidding. and then they met the right person and they can migrate around the company. First thing they do is get a job for a company that builds ships.
Okay.
She may have to go to another country to do that.
She can find a way.
So I think John is last.
I want to say
Because-
something that I want Dr. Grandin to hear. There were 3 parents that came to me after the meeting to tell me the impact on their children and what a major difference it made in their life. I want you all to know it. There was also one of the people that volunteered to help us with the marketing that reached an old company and they want to give us, like more consistent work. So that's what happened in the meeting. I want you all to know that, and I want you to hear.
Well, thank you.
I just want to say one thing because we're going to get to John.
Yeah.
Because we have to get Temple Grandin some lunch and to the airport. She's on a tight time frame.
Well, actually, a plane is like, well, it's a 7:45.
Okay.
It's not that long a
So,
time crunch.
One
Okay.
thing that I just wanted to say was that, well, autism really is a massive spectrum, and it's kind of a little bit ridiculous to say that, oh, someone like me who has autism is just like how one of my cousins also has autism. However, she has it much worse than I do, where she's like 25 but still is like barely is able to speak, and well, she won't ever be able to live on her own and needs help from her family.
Well, this is the problem. Autism is this, you've got the same name
It's
on
a
this huge
huge
spectrum.
thing.
Now, the fact that I'm a visual thinker, I don't pay that much attention to the, to the name. I say, oh, you look like somebody that ought to go work for Google or whatever. I look at the person. And let's look at the work, what they can do. And when I worked with skilled tradespeople, because after I designed that job, I'd supervise construction. So this is basically steel and concrete work. Also, very, very clever machinery design. And some of these skilled tradespeople I know are dyslexic, ADHD, or autistic. And the thing that worries me now, you have a huge shortage of skilled trades because they're playing video games in the basement because schools took out the skilled trades. We've got a huge know-how shortage in this country. And this state's the worst. The bridges are falling apart. I saw a bridge the other day with this big metal thing holding it up so it wouldn't fall down, a concrete bridge. Yeah, you've got some of the worst infrastructure in this state in the country. Because as I travel around, I look at that stuff.
Would you write a letter to our governor, please?
I don't know, I saw a bridge that was so horrible, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
We see it all over. We
not
see it
having
all
a
over.
budget for 3 years kind of does that.
Yeah, we had no budget for 2
No
years.
state
A lot of
budget
us
for
lost,
3 years.
Our
some of
governor
us lost
doesn't tend to wind up in
services
jail,
too.
which doesn't.
It's an absolute mess. When you go to Wisconsin, they take good care of their bridges. I've noticed that. Okay, right there.
Oh, no, I think Jake is trying.
Okay, Jake, okay.
I'll make it quick. So
All right,
I
fine.
really liked what you said at the beginning about, hearing from your mother and her pushing you.
She always pushed me.
And that's something I really relate to growing up. But
Yes.
what about the people